Join us as career changers, company leaders, industry experts, and others who have been in your shoes share their stories, insights, and lessons learned to help you find enjoyment through employment in the tech world. I'm Nemo Ashong, and this is the Empjoyment Podcast. Y'all ready for this? Hey, Empjoyees, how's it going? Nemo Ashong here, and I'm just so thrilled to be able to share this time with you today. Today, we're going to have on here Leslie Lai. And Leslie, I think one of the great things about today's conversation is that Leslie really puts it out there in terms of the benefits of not letting sunk costs and fear of the unknown keep you from living out your dreams in your employment, living out your dreams in tech, and just living out your dreams in general. Leslie's story, she's someone who's come from law and has made a career in tech, and is someone that you can even just tell just from talking to her, always creates opportunities and makes sure to step through each and every one of them. So I'm excited for you to listen to this episode. We also spend some time focused on some of Leslie's top tips and tricks when it comes to getting hired in tech. She spent some time hiring other people and building strong teams, and we'll walk through what she looks for and how she went about doing it so that you can go ahead and benefit from all of that in your journey. So right before we get into the conversation, my only ask is that if you have been getting a lot of value from these types of episodes, if you've been finding the Empjoyment Podcast to be helpful to you, my ask is that you go and you help one other person. I'm very big on helping other people experience joy. And my thought is that if we can continue to bring people in so that they can learn from the experiences of the people who have gone there before them, and then come and work toward their own success while working together with each and every one of you inside of the Empjoyment community, well, we'll have a world where people are consistently experiencing joy on a daily basis. And through that, be able to take care of a lot of their own personal needs for both themselves and their families. So if you can find one person today, every once in a while, I'll ask you to do this. But if you can tell one person about this, who you really think this podcast will transform their life, please go ahead, do them a favor and let them know that we're doing great things here. All right. So let me just thank you in advance for being awesome and taking that in. And then let me get out of your way so you can listen to Leslie and learn from that experience. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Empjoyment Podcast, where we're focused on helping people just like you find enjoyment through employment. Today, we are joined by none other than Leslie Lai. Leslie, it's wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Mm-hmm. So Leslie, I'm really excited to explore how you have found enjoyment throughout your career. But before we get into all of that there, I think it'd be really great to get to know you better. So would you mind sharing with us your life, love, work, and passion?
Okay. Well, after college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, like a lot of people. And I went to law school because I thought it was generally interesting and thought it was like kind of a nice, stable career path. So I did that. And then after law school, I moved to San Francisco and started working at a big law firm. And I did that for 3 years. And it quickly became apparent that this was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so then, it was kind of a multi-year long process of like figuring out how to make the career change and talking to a lot of friends and stuff here that was very helpful. But I eventually left the law firm and joined a small startup as their COO. But I mean, there were 5 people when I joined. And so it was basically doing a lot of everything from like customer service to sales to hiring and finances and a little bit of legal review and contract work. And yeah, I love the experience basically. I learned a lot. And so when I left that company, I decided I wanted to learn to program. So I did a coding boot camp, originally thinking that I would go into product management afterwards, but I love the coding aspect so much that I actually got a software development job afterwards at another startup. And so I did that for a while. And currently I'm taking some time off to try to figure out my next steps and considering product management as well as a few other things.
Wow, that's really awesome there. I think I'm already getting from you like this sense of possibility, Leslie. Like, you're like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And if a great opportunity presents itself, I'm going to walk into it. And not only that, but I'm going to be successful. I love how you just described your experience as like in the CEO role, where you're like, you know what, to tell you the truth, it was a lot of everything, you know? So I'm very excited to go ahead and explore that there. And I think employees, we're going to be in for quite a treat here. Leslie, can I ask you, when you're not focused on your career per se, and you're just like relaxing and such, what do you like to do for fun?
I read a lot, pretty broad range, everything from nonfiction, fiction, science fiction, historical stuff, and then spending a lot of time with my friends. Basically, I enjoy trying new foods and traveling and hiking and trying to get out and enjoy the outdoors. And the Bay Area is a great place to do all of that in. So I feel very fortunate about that.
Yeah, it seems like everything's all right there at your fingertips or your feet if it's coming to the hiking portion, I'm assuming. So that's great. This is really exciting, Leslie. And what I like to do here is focus a bit on your enjoyment journey. And each journey starts off with some kind of compass, some kind of map, some kind of guide to help us get to our overall destination. And for us here, I like to kind of use the idea of a guide through the lens of a success quote. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing with us some kind of quote, some kind of mantra, something that has gone through your mind that you think represents your journey or has led you throughout your professional journey.
I think an idea that's come up again and again that's helped motivate me to continually find like a better job that's a better fit for me is just the thought that, you know, you spend half of your waking hours at work or more, depending on the kind of job you have. And I mean, life is just too short to be spending half of that time doing something you don't like. So I think it's, you know, one of the most important things to do is to figure out what it is that you want to do and like to do, and get good at it and do it.
Awesome. That's going to be a great place to go. Life is just too short, right? And we'll use that there to help guide some of the rest of the conversation here. But why don't we go ahead and start with the very beginning of your journey? And you had talked a little bit here about coming in and doing law and such for 3 years. It would be really interesting to understand a little bit more about like what made you choose the type of work, or made you choose join in the tech industry from, you know, what I can only assume was a pretty comfortable life in the law world.
Well, I think being in San Francisco, you're just constantly surrounded by tech and people in the tech industry. Most of my friends that I knew here, that either from college or that I'd met after I moved out here, were involved in tech in some way. And it just, when I was, you know, thinking about leaving the law and considering other options, it just seemed like the best option that I had locally, because everyone in tech that I knew cared about what they were doing deeply. They were passionate about it. And it sounded very challenging and interesting. So just by talking to friends and living here in San Francisco, I think was what drew me to tech.
Awesome. And when you made that choice, was it like a difficult choice that you had to go through, or is this kind of like, all right, this is the options that are here, I'm going to jump into it and, you know, see what comes up from there?
It was pretty difficult. Yeah. I mean, I think I probably made the decision that I wanted to leave maybe 2 years after I started working at the law firm, but it took, I think, an additional year to really push me to actually do it, to quit. I mean, there's lots of things that make it difficult. I think one is that kind of just fear of the unknown, and kind of also the idea of this like sunk costs. Like, you know, I did go to law school for 3 years. I, you know, paid, you know, a bunch of money in tuition. I was able to like pay back my loans in the time that I was at the law firm. So that definitely helped kind of give me the financial security that I felt like I needed before making a big career change. I also felt a lot of pressure from like my parents and family to continue doing law. But I think I was fortunate in that I was in San Francisco. So all of my friends were like very supportive of the change and almost like were, you know, constantly pushing me to be like, I think you would be way happier, way more successful if you did this. And I'm really thankful for that, because I think that doesn't always exist. Like if I had moved to a different city after law school, that might not necessarily have been the case. I might have had friends who are all lawyers who, you know, maybe also are thinking of a career change, but it just wasn't the same like support and push from your peer group, which I think was actually really, really valuable to have. And then also, you know, there are weeks at the law firm when I was like, well, actually, you know, this isn't so bad. I like this. And there are weeks where I thought, no, this is terrible. I have to get out of here. But it's like hard to sustain that motivation when it's very up and down. Even though kind of from a big picture perspective, it was obvious it wasn't the right fit. There were weeks that, you know, were enjoyable and were okay. And there are people I worked with who I liked that made it better. But yeah, mostly just like fear of the unknown and like, what if I'm not good at this? What if I don't like this new thing that I try either? I mean, I think those risks are always there, but you kind of just have to like psych yourself up for it and try to like, I think pre-commitment is a thing that really helped me, is like telling a lot of people about my plan, like specific concrete goals and plans and deadlines. Because I felt like once I told someone I was going to do X by Y date, I like felt like I had to do it. Excuse me, if not only for myself, just to like be someone who like keeps their word and follows through with their plans. And like little tactics and strategies like that were very helpful.
Leslie, as you're speaking here, it resonates so strongly to my own personal journey, because I spent 6.5 years working as a retirement actuarial consultant, and you know, this trying to move from that world into the tech world myself. There's a lot of support that comes from others, that actually feels a lot more like resistance, you know, where it's like, this is such a good thing. You have passed multiple exams. Why would you give that up? You're so close to this next thing. Why would you give that up? And you're like, but it seems to me like you're like, you found a supportive group of people, of like-minded people who also understood some of your goals and also could help you reach those goals and help you stay accountable to whatever you decided to put out into the world, and continue moving you forward. And I think I'm really, really happy that you found a group of people that were able to support you in that. I know some of you employees that are listening here may not have that group or may not be in that area on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, that's why we're building out the employee community, because we really want to help get that kind of support system out there as we move forward. So that's really, thank you so much for that, Leslie. And thank you for just being very open and authentic with that. And I'd like to kind of stay on this line of, you know, some of the challenges that you experienced here. Now, it'd be great to like focus in on like one specific instance that you had in your career where you faced a challenge, a roadblock of some sort that was keeping you from getting to your ultimate goal. We'd love to be able to almost be a fly on the wall and kind of experience that with you. Would you mind taking us through a story of one specific challenge or difficult time at work that you had on your journey and some of the steps that you took to overcome it?
I think maybe one of the biggest changes I dealt with in moving from like a corporate law background to a startup is that especially a very small, like early stage startup, is that there's very little guidance or like mentorship of any kind. Like every day you have tasks to do that you've never done before, that you don't know how to do. There are no instructions for. No one else at the company has ever done it either. So it's kind of just like, well, I don't know, give it a try, give it your best shot. And I think that can be very challenging, especially for someone who's coming from a more corporate background where there's just a ton of structure and a ton of rules and like roadmaps for everything. And I think it took me a while to like get comfortable with that. But I think at an early stage startup, it's kind of sink or swim. Like you don't really have a choice, because if you don't do these things, no one else will. And no one else knows how to do these things either. So take your best shot at it. And like sometimes you're going to make a big mistake and sometimes you're going to fail, but you learn so much from it. Although at the same time, I would like definitely encourage you to like try to find mentors and try to find help and people, you know, who maybe have done a similar thing before in the past and just reaching out to your network, or friends of friends. I mean, however many degrees of separation you can. I think, but just getting comfortable with doing things with no like clear instructions or maybe even clear goals sometimes, I think is a very valuable skill for a startup and also just in general for life. Because I think, we're constantly doing things like that.
Oh, absolutely. Can you think of a time where you had to come up with one of those things without like a roadmap to lead you, and maybe even had to go to a mentor to get some guidance on like how to move forward?
I guess basically I took over the hiring process at the company I joined a few months after I joined, and I had never really interviewed or hired anyone before. I kind of hated talking on the phone. I'm like kind of an introvert. I don't even really generally like talking to strangers or new people. And so all of that was new and difficult. But I cared deeply about the company and about the quality of people that we were hiring and that I would be working with. And so I think that helped kind of push me to do it because the goal was so important. And I learned a lot just by doing it repeatedly and probably doing it poorly repeatedly at the beginning, but you get better with every, new interview. And also I had a lot of friends in San Francisco who had done hiring before. So talking to them, getting their experiences, getting tips and advice from them. But yeah, so much of it is just in learning by doing because everyone, has a different approach to it. And I think that's valuable and everyone has different things that work for them. But yeah, it was great to be pushed outside of my comfort zone because of a goal or a value I had. And yeah, I'm really thankful for that experience.
Oh, wow. That's really wonderful. And Leslie, it's really cool hearing this because there seem to be just certain themes that keep emerging here where you're putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. You are getting in there and you're setting goals as to why you want to do it or what you're trying to accomplish. And then you are also taking it upon yourself to find others that can either help steer you either through mentorship or by going through your friends and finding just some kind of support to help you get there. And then there's this other aspect of let's just see where it goes. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to put my best in and I'm going to learn along the way there. And it seems like, at least in the various stories that you've shared so far, that this seems to keep coming through. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people don't ask for help often enough. And I think you're surprised sometimes by how often someone who knows someone who has done, exactly the thing that you're trying to do. And so just talking more about your challenges at work and what you want to learn more about to basically your friends and everyone you meet. Not only is it an interesting conversation, but I think it often yields, a lot of helpful, contacts and other advice.
Absolutely. We were connected through a friend and, just because reached out and you once again stepped into it. So, liking how this is going here. And I appreciate you taking us through some of the more challenging parts of it. Can we flip things around right now and maybe focus on something that went really well for you in your professional journey? It'd be great to hear some kind of project or undertaking that you had at work where you felt you did really well and the steps that led to your success.
I'm trying to think. Probably the thing I'm most proud of at that first startup that I worked at was just the team that I ended up building. I think in the time that I was there, we grew from 5 people to 30 people. And it was just still to this day, one of the best groups of people I have ever worked with. And there was just so little of the office politicking or weird kind of interpersonal dynamics, competitiveness. Everyone was in it for, I think, the common goals of the company. And I can't take all of the credit for that, obviously, but I did interview and hire a lot of those people. And I was just really happy to see that they all were able to work together so well. And also that so many of that team, many of us are no longer at that company. This was like 5-6 years ago. But that so many of them remain close friends, and are like valuable members of each other's like professional and personal networks. And that's been really, really fulfilling to see.
Wow, it seems like you found a group of people who shared very similar values and how they wanted to go about doing things and what they wanted to accomplish in life so strongly that even now that it's been years and they're not even working on that same project, they're still helping each other and they're still working together.
Yeah, and some of them are working together now at other companies. Huh. Some of them have hired people that they met and became friends there. It's been really, that was a really unique and wonderful community of people, I think.
Awesome. Well, that's really great to hear how your values have continued to kind of shine through and continue to carry on from there. Well, this has been great. We've kind of talked through a lot of your journey up until this point, and I think right now it'd be great to kind of see like focus now on where you are right now and what's coming up ahead for you. So would you mind sharing one thing about your professional journey that excites you right at this moment?
Sure. So just very quickly, after I left that first startup I was at, I decided to learn to program. And I tried to do it on my own for a while, but it was like pretty slow process and like pretty frustrating. So I decided to do a coding boot camp, which is great, with the intention of potentially going into product management afterwards. But I enjoyed the coding aspect of it so much that I decided to get a full-time coding job after the boot camp. So that was my most recent job. But right now I'm taking some time off to try to think about next steps and, always trying to figure out, the best job for me that would be the most fulfilling, challenging thing to do at that moment. And so product management is still one of the things I'm very interested in. So that's something that I'm currently exploring. I think it would be a good fit for kind of the past experiences and skills I've had, going all the way back to when I was a lawyer. I think a lot of those skills would translate to a product management role also, plus all the things I learned at the tech company as a non-technical employee and then as a coder most recently. But I'm also considering something that's kind of out of left field that isn't as related to tech, which is writing. It's something I've always enjoyed doing, but I've never done it in any sort of professional or official capacity. But I feel like I often have conversations like this one about like my career changes and my other experiences in San Francisco that I think would be interesting to share. And writing, I think, is a good way to share it in kind of an efficient, scalable way. I enjoy having coffee with people and talking with them about their careers. But if, I was able to write all of this down in a more like organized way, I think that impact could be much bigger and would be a wonderful thing to be able to do. So that's something I'm currently thinking about and wanting to explore.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, firstly, on the product management side of things, I mean, just hearing your journey, seeing how you consistently apply things, and just even seeing how you're already thinking about how you are pretty uniquely positioned given the law, the non-tech, the technical experiences that you've had to be able to translate in such a great way in the position as a product manager. I just think is something that just excites me really well. And I'm very excited for anything that might come from that there. Mm-hmm. This writing aspect is also just really, really interesting. And what's going on through my mind as you're talking is like, okay, how can I help Leslie make this a reality even sooner? So if you don't mind, I'll probably reach out to you too and see if there's any way that I can help make that into more of a reality for you in a shorter period of time. But I'm excited for you, Leslie. What can I say?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. That would be great. I'd absolutely love to, be connected to people, talk to people, especially, like people in the writing community, same same applies to when you're trying to join tech. Just meeting people who are doing it, who have made the change, is very, very helpful.
Awesome. All right. So I'll take note of that and see what I can come up with there. Well, great, Leslie. I really appreciate this here. We've been able to spend some time focused on your journey thus far. And what I'd like to do is take a couple minutes now to just look at some tangible skills that we can maybe help employees walk away with as they're moving forward on their journey. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned a little bit earlier that you had done a lot of hiring through your past experiences. And I know that you have some best practices and have seen things from multiple sides of the table. So I was wondering if you would be comfortable with us walking through maybe some best practices, some tips, tricks, do's, don'ts that for the employees that are listening here. Would that work for you?
Yeah, sure.
All right, great. So, why don't we just start off here with some of those tips and tricks? Like, if you had to say, if there were like 3 things that you see people doing that if you could advise them not to do or to avoid, what would they be and why?
Let's see. From when I did a lot of interviewing when I was at my first startup, and I think one very, very simple thing is dress code. Like, if they don't tell you what it is, just ask, because in San Francisco here, it's often very casual. People wear like hoodies and sweatpants and shorts and flip-flops often. And so I think if you went to an interview like dressed in a suit, it would, I think, rightly or wrongly, signal kind of like, oh, I haven't done the research on this industry or this company or the culture of the company. And maybe this person isn't a great fit. And also, I think, you would be uncomfortable. It's like if you showed up at a meeting where everyone was dressed up, in business casual, and you were in like a hoodie and jeans. I think that's just like a very, very simple thing. When we were doing hiring, we tried to tell people, before they came in for an interview, that, hey, we're a very casual office. But I think if you don't get that information from them, then just ask. And I think it shows that you're planning and thinking about these things, which is also a good sign. Another thing, this isn't really a don't, I guess this is more of a do, is thank you emails after the interview to all of the people that you met. Most people do this, not everyone. Most people do it, and it's a form email. I'm sure they sent the same email to every single person that they met with, which is better than not doing it at all. But I think just taking literally 5 minutes to customize the email and personalize it, just with a little note about something that you talked about that you found interesting, or a follow-up question that you had for that person based on your conversation. I think that would put you probably in the top 1 or 2% of candidates. I think that is such a small, easy thing to do, especially like if you're interviewing for a coding job. When I did this, I would send thank you emails and also be like, here are some further thoughts about like the coding challenge that we did. I thought about it further afterwards, and I came up with like more ideas that I thought would be a better way to solve that problem. I think things like that can make a big difference. Another, this isn't a hard don't, but because I feel like sometimes you aren't connected in a community or industry and you have to, but the difference between a cold application where you just emailed the resume to the hiring manager versus finding someone in your network that works there or who knows someone who works there makes a huge, huge difference. I mean, you don't even have to know someone who works at the company. Like, what I would advise is you find this company that you're interested in. You just go on LinkedIn and search for that company, and it'll tell you if you have, friends of friends who work there, and just sending a note to them being like, hey, I'm interested in applying for a job at this company. Would you mind, just referring me or forwarding my email on to the hiring manager or to your friend who works there? Could I get coffee with them to talk about what it's like to work there? Something like that, I think, gets your resume basically to the top of the pile and just gets you extra consideration. And it's just so, so helpful. So those are, I think, 3 do's/do nots.
Yeah, absolutely. So I heard dress. When it comes to the dress, if you're not sure, ask. And because that also is a big indicator as to like how you're doing and your fit, your understanding of the culture. Do send thank you emails. And one thing I thought that was really awesome there was how you continued the conversation. You know, I talk to a lot of people. I'm an extrovert naturally. So I love to talk and go forth. But one of my big things is about building relationships, not necessarily expanding your network, you know, and I think there's a lot of power based on even what you were saying here of building a deep relationship that says, I'm someone who's thinking about this here or our conversation connected. That goes beyond just like quote unquote networking or sending that perfunctory thank you note because that's just what people do.
Right.
As opposed to like, this was a really great time. Thank you very much. And then the final point that you just had, for some reason, it's eluded me right now.
It's just finding a connection to someone at the company.
Yes.
Yeah. LinkedIn is great for that, or just asking around, posting on Facebook, other social media, Twitter. Any in you can find can make a big difference. Awesome.
So that I feel like those three things are a great place for employees to just kind of put into action, because you can hear this stuff, but if you don't put it into action, it's not gonna give you the results that you're looking for. And Leslie, you have mentioned a few times that you were part of a boot camp and then you got a job as a coder. And what I do with these interviews is that I think about different people that I've seen and interacted with. And I have someone in my mind that recently completed a boot camp and is now at the point of trying to understand, you know, how do I actually get the job here? And the words that were used to me is like, I feel like I now have the skills, but I don't have the experience. I was kind of wondering if maybe you can talk through a bit about how you navigated that, because you've clearly done it successfully.
Yeah, sure. It was definitely a challenge. Even for me, who is someone who's like fairly connected in the tech community. I'd been living in San Francisco for, like 5+ years when I learned to program. And it still took me, I think, about 3 months after the boot camp to find a job. And so I think one tip or advice is just to like be patient and don't give up. I know, sending out job applications with no success or sometimes like no response is, probably one of the most demoralizing things you can do day in and day out. But basically, I think like have a schedule and stick to it. And I think actually slow and steady is better than like bursts of activity. So I think it's actually better to say like, I'll identify, 5 companies this week or 10 companies this week I want to apply to and apply to them and do that every week, as opposed to like, you spend 2 days and you send out 50 or 100 applications. There are a couple of reasons I think that's better. I think one is that you spend more time with each company and I think your application is stronger. And then 2, I think it's less demoralizing if you have a pipeline. So like even if you go to an interview and get rejected, at least you have more things coming up, like more applications that you just sent out to companies that you're excited about, or more upcoming interviews, and just kind of trying to get as steady of a pipeline as possible. So kind of like smaller, more continuous goals when you're applying. And then I guess one quick story, the job that I ended up getting, my first coding job after the boot camp, is one of the first in-person interviews I got after the boot camp. And I had a really great time interviewing with them, like really clicked with a lot of the people I met, had really great conversations. But they actually did not offer me the job afterwards. They were like, we really loved you. We think you're like a smart person, but we unfortunately just think you don't have enough experience. I mean, I had 0 experience apart from the boot camp. And they were like, we just don't know that we have the time and the resources to kind of properly train you and get you up to speed, which I think are all totally understandable concerns. And I think it's something that boot camp graduates get and hear very, very frequently. And so I actually replied to them and said basically that I totally understand those concerns. Here, I had a few friends who had hired bootcamp graduates in the past and had very, very good experiences with them. And so I was basically like, hey, like, I know these people. I'd really encourage you to reach out and talk to them because, you know, they thought hiring bootcamp grads was like one of the best things that they had done at their company. You know, I'm not even sure if they reached out and talked to those people, but I think they were just struck by the email. And by, I mean, obviously I really wanted to work at their company. I really liked them. And I got a job offer, I think like a week after I sent that email. And so I guess another piece of advice is just like, don't take no for an answer. I mean, sometimes I think people take that piece of advice to be very kind of like aggressive about it. But I think if you're like thoughtful and understanding, that there's really no harm. I think people are just impressed with your drive. And I think so much of hiring that I learned when I was on the hiring side of the table was that hiring someone is risky. You know, you don't know if this person will be good, if they'll have a good impact on your culture or a negative impact. And so anything you can do to like lower that risk for them will help your chances. And so that's why getting in, you know, just having someone vouch for you to be like, this person is smart, this person is hardworking, removes that risk from the hiring manager's perspective. And so, yeah, basically don't take no for an answer. Don't be afraid to follow up and be genuine, be honest, and try to, present yourself as an unrisky candidate, basically, who will have a positive impact on their company.
Wow. Leslie, I really appreciate that because can I just say this really quickly? Throughout this entire conversation, you've just been so amazing at just providing this very actionable insight and advice, and also just things that I think you're hitting on all the various places that, at least for me, when I was going through this, was going through my mind. And when I talk to others, has come up as well. And I really think this idea of like, you know, kind of de-risking it for them in some way, shape, or form, even if it's that follow-up email and saying, hey, you know, I'm still paying attention, or, hey, here goes other references that you can check in, or other people who've been successful. I feel like it's no surprise to me why you've been so successful, Leslie. And employees, I hope that you also are able to take some nuggets from this here and apply it to your progress moving forward in your career.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that. I mean, obviously these are things I've spent a lot of time thinking about and doing. So it's really gratifying to hear that hopefully some of this will be helpful to someone else out there. One more thing that I just thought of about the de-risking it is like, I think offering to maybe do contract work for them, or like part-time work, instead of like, you know, hey, can I work as a contract employee for 3 months, 6 months? Whatever it is. And if it works out, you know, then you can get, you know, an official full-time job offer. And if not, then you get some experience and some projects to list on your resume. I think that's another way to de-risk, especially something that maybe like small startups are particularly open to.
That's awesome. I think that's so cool. Like, even just addressing right there, like if you're looking for experience, take the experience and use that to continue moving forward. Well, thank you, Leslie. I really appreciate that. And what I want to do here is move on to basically our last set of questions here. And what it really is all about is about action. Like we said earlier, I think there's a quote that says like, to know and to not do is to really not know. Right. So I'd like to go back and see if we can help people take action this week here and help them be able to create more enjoyment through employment. So with that, I'd like to ask you, imagine that your mind got sent back in time to the exact moment you decided to commit to your current career. You have the same skill set as you did back then, but you have the same skill set as you did back then. But you have all of your memories, experiences, and confidence that you developed since, right? What would you do in the next 7 days to put you on a path to find enjoyment through employment?
I think being more open-minded to opportunities, because I think often you might meet someone or hear about a company that's like, oh, that might be interesting. But then all these like doubts creep in, like, oh, but I'm not the right fit for them. That company is too big or too small, or maybe I'm not in love with that product. I mean, there's just so many doubts that creep in immediately. And I think it's very easy to then be like, oh, well, maybe not, and not explore that option or not take that meeting or send out that job application. And I think just being more open-minded, because you just never know. Sometimes an opportunity comes up and it doesn't sound like the perfect thing for you, but maybe it is, or maybe it's not the perfect thing for you, but it'll help you find the next thing. Taking a meeting or going to a job interview, isn't always a failure if you don't get a job out of it. Basically, because that person, if they're impressed with you and they like you, even if you're not right for the job that, they're looking to fill, they might know someone else who they could refer you to. I mean, this is actually a thing I've had happen to friends repeatedly. And so I think just saying yes to more things, or saying maybe to more things instead of rounding down to no, basically, is kind of, I think, not an attitude I had 6-7 years ago, but is one that I'm trying to cultivate more in my life now.
Well, thank you for not rounding down to no for this interview here, or this conversation here, because I feel like my head turned to the side. I was like saying maybe instead of rounding down no. I think that's so that's such a cool way of looking at it there, right? And Leslie, I think because you decided to say yes overall here, I think you've been able to help a number of different people to move forward in their journey. So can I just ask you to just give us one parting thought and then let us know how we can reach you?
Yeah, I guess just take a lot of time to think about what it is that you want to do and then go for it, even if you're not sure. I mean, all we can do is take our best guess. And if that doesn't turn out to be the right thing for you, then try a different thing. I mean, so, I think basically, yeah, just try things, even if you're not sure, if not 100% sure that they're right, because it'll probably get you closer to what you're looking for regardless. And how to reach me? Should I just give out my email or website? Or?
Yeah, would you like us to meet you on like LinkedIn or web? Yeah, the website would be wonderful. And you'll also get an invitation to the enjoyment community, so they can also find you there. But I'd love to find out more about your website and stuff.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's just www.leslielai.com. And I haven't updated in a while, so it's mostly geared towards being a developer. But I think there's a contact page there where you can contact me on, Facebook, LinkedIn, email. So that'll probably be the easiest way.
And Lai is spelled Lai, MJoye. So leslielai.com. Well, thank you so much there, Leslie. This has been an absolutely wonderful experience. I just appreciate you taking the time here to share your experience with everyone and share your lessons learned. I'm very excited for what comes for you in the future. And I am just happy that you've been able to find enjoyment through employment. So thank you once again, and we'll look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
That's some powerful stuff there, isn't it, MJoyes? Like, just really being able to let go of the things that have gotten you to this point so that you can have an opportunity to experience life and the things that are ahead of you in your career journey. Leslie, thank you so much for being so open with this stuff, because I feel that it gives all of us an opportunity now to go and take action and to make this just a little bit more real in our lives. So we like to end each episode with an opportunity for you to take this from insight into action within the Empjoyment community, which you can easily join by going to empjoyment.com/community, or just type in the word Empjoyment to 33444. What we do there is that we help each other succeed, and our past guests come in and continue to share their knowledge, insights, lessons learned, and experiences for each of us. And then we have specific workshops that we sit through and we craft together, and we decide what do we need to know so that you can all get the jobs and experiences you're looking for. So with that here, moving from insight to action, Leslie shared that companies consider the risk involved with hiring someone for their organization and recommended several ways for you all to reduce the perception of risk during your job search, right? So with this here, let us know what is one thing that you've done or have seen done that you feel has helped someone become more comfortable with you or reduce the risk associated with you when taking on a new project or a new role. So whether or not you've done it yourself and whether or not it's been to get into a new role altogether, we basically want to try and get together a group of best practices that people have seen and experienced some way, shape, or form of how to help other people get comfortable when they're taking on what could be a risky hire or a risky person onto their project. And that risk is only because they don't know how things are going to end up. All right. It's a fun place to be. Let's go ahead and use this here to propel ourselves to the next level. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I have to say, here's to experience and joy every single day. Y'all take care.